Denise.
And Delise.
And we're selling in Idaho. This is today's podcast. We're going to talk about security system items like cameras and video equipment, talking about security on the home when it's vacant and you're having your house for sale. So what to do and what not to do, right? Okay, so we're going to start out with, just so you know, in the state of Idaho, if you have your camera on and the volume and you're listening and recording, that is not legal. So a lot of people can have the camera on, like we have the Ring doorbell. So that one's fine, but inside the house, you want to make sure you don't have that. I had a seller once that didn't tell me, and they had the Ring doorbell. We're fully aware of that. So even if I it's my listing, but if I brought a buyer, you have to always tell the people, don't watch what you're saying.
Yes.
When you're in there. Well, one time, oh my gosh. So we were talking about the mantle on the television. And I said, oh yeah, so there's a Smurf behind here. And I moved one of the items.
Smurf?
A Smurf. It's like.
As soon as you said that, I'm thinking a little blue person.
No, it's a box where they run the cables in, and it's up in the fireplace.
I know about homes. I swear.
No, she doesn't.
I swear.
Anyways, so I was moving this painting to see, and I found the camera.
Oh.
And so they were recording and watching everybody in the open house. And so that's really not bad. We don't want to get you guys in trouble. And sure, it's great to know what people are doing, make sure nobody steals anything.
Yes.
But the agents that come in with their clients, again, I've mentioned it on other podcasts, make sure you put all your valuables away. Make sure you put all your jewelry away, your medication and everything. Because not always, a lot of times, like if we're Zillow Premier agents too, so we can meet someone from Zillow and go in and open the house, and there could be 5 of them, and trying to keep track of them. We are licensed agents and we are responsible for your house, but trying to herd those is like herding cats.
Yes.
So make sure you put all your stuff away.
We just talked about that in the last video. That's so important. Yeah. But one of the things too that you should know, security wise, yes, it's good to have a video going on with no sound so that you can make sure nothing got stolen, right? You come home and you're like, oh my gosh, the $100 I left out on the counter is now missing. Probably because I would have taken that.
Probably because you left $100 out on the counter. So let's just do that.
But you can go back on the video and say, oh, okay, well, this lady that showed my home at noon today, they took it, whatever. But
yeah, it's not something that you can do. I don't know where you were going.
I had a point. Distraction. I must have seen a cute picture on a wall.
Yeah. So anyways, let's just make sure that if you have cameras in the house, that it's the audio portion of that's turned off because...
Oh, I know where I was going. Oh, now I remember. Okay. But as a buyer's agent as well, or worked with buyers in the past, we do have that discussion with them like, hey, don't talk about the home. Don't talk about what you can afford, what you can't afford, what you can offer. So really, there's not going to be anything that you're finding out from a recording of what they're discussing. So it's just kind of a mental note, right?
Unless
I know
it's a new agent, Back in the day before this was a very popular thing to have is our cameras in here. They had one. This was a horrible story. They had the camera. It's great for sellers, right? They had the camera on the fireplace somewhere, but they couldn't see it. And the buyer's agent and the buyer were in there right by the fireplace. I love this house. I don't care what it takes. Let's get an offer in. I'm willing to go about 50,000 over if in case there's a bidding more.
Perfect.
But let's go 20 grand under. But I'm willing to do this. So the homeowner heard this whole thing. And guess what? By the time it ended, they went over price. And it was because they found out all this through cameras. And I don't want you, because you heard that, saying that's a great idea. I'm going to do that.
Well, the other side of that, the flip side is, everyone is going to love your home the way that you loved your home.
Oh, you don't want to hear the negative.
So you don't want to hear the negative. It could be discouraging. And it's something as silly as they could walk in and say, wow, I hate white walls. Yeah. But you don't want to hear it. You don't need to hear it.
We'll get the feedback as listing agents at the end of the day.
Yes.
Now let's talk about safety in your home. You list your home, it's vacant. You moved back to Nebraska, wherever it is, and we're selling your house here. There's a lot of things you need to discuss with your agent, if it's not us, that when they're having an open house, There's a lot of things that can go wrong. So the agents are in here. You don't have any valuables, none of that, right? Nothing like that's going to happen. But during an open house, you can have some shady people come in, distracting the agent, or they're walking around and unlock the windows. Okay. Unlock the doors. And so when the agent leaves, they don't think to check the windows to make sure they're all locked.
Because they were locked when they got there.
Mhm.
So why would they be unlocked?
So at nighttime, they can, crawl in. You may still have some valuable stuff there. And then this goes for you guys who haven't vacated also. When there's an open house, you're going to want to check if the agent's not checking your windows, make sure they're locked so nobody breaks in the middle of the night and robs you or steals anything. I mean, it's Idaho, but still, you just want to make sure that the windows were locked. And I heard this story and it didn't happen to me. It's just what I was told.
I know exactly what you're going to say because I was thinking of that story.
Yeah. So an agent had an open house, a lot of people. She locked it up. The homeowners were out of town. So this is what people look for. They look for the open house sign and then they'll watch the house to see if people are coming and going. Now you may just be gone for the weekend. So it could be convenient for an open house, whatever. So what they did is one of them crawled in the crawl space. And so when she left, they unlocked the house that night for somebody else to come in. So you want to make sure that the agents are watching the house during the open houses. You want to make sure the windows are locked up. You want to make sure the back door. I've walked into a couple of my listings that I've checked out after they've been in it for a couple of days and, not a couple of days, a couple hours. And I'm checking it in that evening to shut all the lights off and the door's unlocked. This is unlocked. So it's really important that your agent stays on top of that house.
And that's one thing. I mean, again, let's just sell Abmont Realty a little bit, but we do trainings every week and that's part of our trainings.
Yeah.
We go through and typically we'll have two agents at an open house if possible. And we double check each other's work, right? Like we walk through the home, we check the windows, we check the doors. If one person's going this way, we're here to make sure nobody's sneaking in those closets, sneaking in those crawl spaces, doing anything. This is not to scare you. This doesn't happen a lot. It's Idaho.
Rarely does it happen.
Rarely. But the possibility is there. And that's why we want to have our clients' backs and just making sure like, okay, everything's locked up. Everything's good to go. Especially if you're not here. If you move to Nebraska, which you wouldn't do, right? You would just buy another home in Idaho. Or go to Nebraska. That's silly. But, we have your back here.
And they did catch a ring of people here in Idaho. I think it was this last summer or it was last winter. I can't remember when it was, but they were watching the homes that had an open house sign and their personal belongings were in there and they would break in the evenings when people weren't home. There was no open houses and so having security on the outside of the house is important. So it's something you can watch.
Yep.
I have those light up, I don't know, it's motion detectors.
Yeah.
And it's really bright because what they were doing is people who had no backyard neighbor, which I don't have a backyard neighbor, they off of golf courses or back up to common space, they were going in at night and breaking in. And so we put up security, motion detectors and they're really bright here. We've got it on the back side. I put a camera on the back, so I can see the windows and I have one up in the front. Again, it's Idaho and they did bust it. It was a ring out of, I think it was Florida. It was a ring out of Florida. They fly in, they do this and then they leave and they break in and get the valuables.
So fun fact, when I moved into my new built home here in Idaho, I moved to if we want to classify safe and not safe, super safe. It's a brand new subdivision, new built, new construction. There was only about 7 of us that lived there at the time, 7 homes built. First thing I did was put my Ring doorbell on. Love my Ring doorbell because I actually blink, but I can see when packages are dropped off. I can see who comes by, who doesn't. My third night there, my car got broken into and I didn't really know it because it was weird. They didn't really take much, but I went in there. I was like, I think the car got broken into. That's really weird. Sure enough, I caught it on my doorbell and those guys got caught. I sent it to the police. They actually got caught. They got prosecuted. My neighbor across the street's car got broken into the same night and her license and wallet and everything got taken.
You're lucky.
I mean, it's Idaho. I left my car keys in the car. I was trying to sell my car. I was like, why couldn't they just take the thing? It would have worked out great.
Insurance claim at that point.
Claim would perfect.
Yeah.
But there was 2 other neighbors whose cars got broken into, and they did not have cameras up. And so,
so we get a little bit of waves here and there. So moral of our story today is it's great to have your security cameras, but make sure you don't have the video and the audio on inside the house. And make sure that you've spoken with your agent and that they are checking, especially if you're not here, windows, doors, double checking everything. And then when you come home in the evenings after an open house, just make sure that everything's locked up.
Yep.
It's very important.
Yep. And another, on that same token, we've talked about safety, we've talked about videos, but another thing when you're selling your home in Idaho to be prepared for is open houses. Sometimes people, they don't listen to the time.
This just happened to my client.
Yes, it's not bad. It's not scary. It's just inconvenient and a little, exactly.
It was rude.
Exactly. It was super rude. But I was doing an open house for one of Denise's clients, and the open house started at 12.
I think it was at 12 and at 20 till, so 11:40.
11:40, right? You wouldn't think that's a big deal, but sure enough, here comes
They knocked. At least they knocked.
They did knock. I actually had that same client had someone actually walk in before.
No, this is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
How she just busted in.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So they knocked, but they came in. Supposedly she was an agent, and our clients were like, hey, the open house starts at 12. She's setting up signs. She'll be back. And the girl said, well, I'm an agent. I'm going to show the home, and just came in.
Yeah. Don't let people do that to you.
That's not actually, it's
not right.
It's not right. It's not allowed. You do not have to allow them in your home at that time.
Yeah.
It is still your home.
Yeah.
You still own it.
Yeah. They're trespassing at that point without permission. And the agent went in with her clients, walked through their house, didn't take their shoes off. My client was very upset. She didn't know any better. So, and the lock boxes, make sure that at night, there is timers on the lock boxes, but randomly, if you're living there, I would bring them in at night. And if they're having an open house, put it out. And then that way, the agent can get in. But if I was a homeowner, I would put the lockbox inside the house. And then in daytime when I leave, put it back out.
Yep, absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
Anyways, thanks for joining us with Selling in Idaho. We appreciate you guys, and we look forward to seeing you on our next podcast.
And we hope we didn't scare you.
Okay.